Hi, I'm Soshana, and
I'm Joyce.
Holly Geerdes.
well, today we're going to talk about something that's exciting to all of us, at least to me. Since we have Holly with us, we figured that we'd ask her some questions about estate planning in relation to celebrities.
Right, as to what happened.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So let's get started.
Who do you want to talk about first?
What? How about, I don't know, Kobe Bryant?
Bryant? Mm-hmm.
Oh, so you want the scoop.
Yeah.
The celebrity
Yeah,
scoop.
let's talk about it.
Yeah. So Kobe Bryant, as you know, has passed away.
Yeah.
He had, a 100 million plus estate.
Yeah.
And he had 3 daughters, and I think the youngest was born about several months before he died.
Yeah.
Oh, the youngest one
youngest
was
one,
that
the
young.
Yeah.
Oh, because he was flying with the older child, wasn't he?
I think the oldest, they were going to a tournament
Right.
Right.
with the coach, and
That's
the plane
what.
crashed.
Mm-hmm.
But they did have a child that was recently born.
Okay.
So prior to that, Kobe Bryant had a trust.
Mm-hmm.
He had his lawyers create a trust. And again, even though you have a trust, it doesn't mean that it was set up correctly or it didn't anticipate all the what ifs.
Mm-hmm.
Or you didn't update it when your family changes, assets change, your health changes, the law changes. So even a 100 millionaire plus or billionaires, just because they have a trust doesn't mean that they're insulated or immune or shielded from things that, you didn't anticipate.
Okay.
Now, the trust itself, the document, a trust is drafted to make sure that assets remain confidential, your wishes remain confidential. None of the assets have to go through a public circus called probate court. Because, obviously Kobe and the family wants to keep all their assets and family affairs private. So Kobe created a trust for his family in the event of his death. It was written correctly. It was an excellent trust. But they didn't anticipate afterborn children, which is interesting to me, why a trust didn't do that.
What do you mean? What do you mean? After born children?
Well, after the trust is created, they have more children.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so
Yeah.
was any child included in that trust? Or?
Yes, the ones that existed when they created the trust.
Oh, I see.
Oh, but
So
not the youngest one was
Not the one that was recently born.
Oh God.
So when you say he named the 3 daughters, after the spouse dies, the 3 daughters would inherit everything equally. But then he died, but he also had a newborn, and he didn't update the trust. And so, of course, the mother didn't want the youngest child to be disinherited, which is what would have happened.
Right.
Of hundreds of millions of dollars. And so she was a trustee along with another individual, and they petitioned the court to modify the trust. And of course, you have to go through court procedure
To modify it?
to modify because he passed away. When you pass away, the trust becomes irrevocable.
Right. So the trustee now has to go through the court to get it done.
Yeah.
Ah.
And has to prove that what the intent of this trust was for, and it was for all his children.
Right.
And so it went through the public forum, litigation, and a little wrinkle, wasn't a little, Kobe Bryant's mother was also complaining that Kobe promised her a lot of money to take care of her. So it pitted the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law also in the same proceeding regarding the assets in the trust. The modifying the trust, would have been simple just to add the child, but still it cost a lot of lawyer fees.
Right.
That was unnecessary if they had just anticipated, all my children, even after I die, if they're existing, to split equally, but they didn't anticipate that.
It's just it was the wording, the way it was phrased, maybe?
That's not a phrase. When the trust was made, he included all his children that were existing at the time.
Okay.
He didn't update
So their
it.
names were there, except the ones that were born after were not listed.
So then when it gets open or go to the court, then you know how the reason why people create trust is so that none of it becomes public, right?
Yeah.
Now then it's undoing it. So then do they have to disclose everything? I was like, so everybody gets to know what's written on the trust? That's not the
No.
case, right? It's
No.
just
Correct. The
that-
trust itself is very private. Very private.
right.
And when they went to court, they didn't have to expose everything. They
Okay.
just had to, show the court that we just need to modify this
Modify
one
it to
provision.
add one person.
Correct.
Okay.
So unlike a will where you have to go through probate court and the public has every right to see everything,
Mm-hmm.
a trust is very confidential.
Okay. Even when
People
they
don't
have-
understand. No, you do not have to file the trust anywhere when you create it.
Right.
It's meant to be confidential,
Mm-hmm.
and it's supposed to be out of the public forum and avoid probate court.
Right.
And so a lot of aspects of that trust remain private.
Mm-hmm.
But the proceeding itself to modify it was very public.
Mm-hmm.
And when you open a proceeding, it also opens it up for people to object or fight over the assets, which is what happened with Kobe Bryant's mother.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what happened.
Oh God! It's never fun when stuff like that happens. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So even the best written trust still sometimes makes mistakes or omissions that probably should have been in there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of interesting. Not interesting. For someone like that with that kind of asset, right? You would think that he would have people around him. Whenever there is a change in his life, that they would recommend him to do something about it. To rewrite it or include it or modify it.
Well, procrastination.
I know. We all think
He
that.
knew
I'll do it tomorrow.
He knew 9 months before the baby was going to be born. They
Mhm.
just didn't get around to updating it.
Mm.
So
That's a bummer.
procrastination is the number one reason people lose their wealth over time. They don't get their affairs in order. Just a number of reasons, and even updating. The trust requires updating when things change.
Right.
And they would have updated eventually.
Mhm.
Right.
Eventually.
Yeah.
I'm sure they would have.
Yeah, exactly.
But they didn't. And he died.
And to regular people, even though you don't have that much asset, you create a trust and, buy and sell, right? That happens quite a bit. You buy a new rental property, you sell
right,
a rental property, and then you forget that you have to
Right.
worry about the title or change the title or do
There's a
something
lot
to
going on.
to put it into your trust.
Yeah, a lot of people, when they don't have an ongoing relationship with their lawyers like my clients do, when they buy properties, new properties, they
Mhm.
sell their home, downsize, buy another one, replace, or do real estate investment, they inherit property, they forget.
Right.
Because, like our clients, we do it for them.
Right.
But then after everything is set in on cruise control, when things change later on, not our clients, but with other lawyers, you generally do the trust and they're gone and you never see that lawyer again.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so their assets change and they never update it.
Mm-hmm.
So the very purpose of the trust then got defeated, really, because you're
Right.
going through probate for some of your assets anyway.
Anyways.
And so we always, tell our clients, and in fact, most of them are on maintenance programs where they get unlimited changes and updates when their assets change, their family changes, their health changes, and even when the law changes.
Right. So I think having that maintenance
Yeah.
program kind of helps with that.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to know that because I think a lot of people don't realize that is even an option to have some sort
It
of.
generally isn't.
Yeah, because you think that you got
Yeah.
all the paperwork done now,
Right.
almost set, and you
Done.
put it
Come on,
aside,
right.
and you don't even think about
Right.
it, right?
Yeah.
But especially for those, I think, who kind of buys and sells rental properties,
Mhm.
I think that's one of the main things.
You're right.
Because when you're investing, you can assign
Yeah.
like beneficiaries and things like that, and you don't have to worry about it. But
Mm-hmm.
when you're buying properties, I think that's where I see the most people kind of missing out
Yeah.
on that. And I have even seen a trust that nothing was ever funded.
Oh, that's really common because people try to do it themselves, the download do-it-yourself stuff, and attorneys even, because they don't want that extra work.
Mm-hmm.
They want to just draft the trust, get you signed, and out the door.
Right.
So a lot of attorneys won't fund. They won't put the assets in the trust. They give you a sheet of paper and say, here, you go do it.
And then it never happens.
It doesn't happen.
Right.
So we know that, so we always do it. We
Mhm.
don't trust the client not to do it. But a lot of attorneys say, you go do it, and here's a sheet of paper that says how to do it, which
Yeah, it's
most
tough.
clients are like, I don't even know what this means.
Right.
And then they go home and they forget about it and they procrastinate, or they're penny wise, pound foolish. They're like, I don't want to pay for the attorney to do the funding for those attorneys that charge extra.
Mhm.
But
Then there's no point of even doing it.
yes,
Because nothing is protected now,
Right.
if you don't fund it, meaning you change, for example, the title of your properties and assets to the trust, so you'll be included in the trust.
Okay.
So I think, people miss that part a lot. I mean, I run into it quite often that,
they don't realize the trust governs only what's in the title of the trust name.
I think people don't even understand what a trust is and how it works.
you. So, okay, ask questions now.
Yeah, I mean, I think people need to kind of like understand on a more basic level what a trust is, because you're talking about like funding. I'm like, funding what? Like what does that really mean?
It just means retitling your assets into your trust name.
Okay.
Right? So at a very basic, rudimentary level, a trust is a legal document where you express your wishes of who should receive your assets.
Okay.
And you appoint a successor trustee, where in a will you name a successor executor to distribute the assets according to your wishes.
Okay.
So a trust is a title transfer document, a mechanism to transfer title to all your assets upon your death without probate court.
Got it. Okay.
That's a very basic form of it. If you don't use that mechanism, then you got to go through probate.
Got it. Okay.
As to real estate, vehicles, any accounts that you forget to put beneficiaries. But in order for the trust to distribute those assets according to your wishes in the trust document, you have to put the assets in the trust name. Because it only governs assets that are in the trust name.
Right.
Anything that is in your personal name is not governed by your trust document.
Okay.
So when people create and put their wishes in the trust document of who gets their assets, but all their assets are still in their personal name, that goes through probate.
Okay.
It doesn't match the trust name.
So we're talking everything. We're talking the house, we're talking the cars, we're talking furniture, we're talking the dog.
Well, you got to mention who gets your dog, yeah, but there's no title on a dog,
Okay.
right?
But the
you can
ones
mention
that has title. In other words, property will be the best example. Like tangible, I guess, property or real estate. Car is, right? Whatever the property is that you have to have, one has to have a title, then that has to be changed to the name of the trust. So that way it'll be included.
Got it.
in the trust name. And all of your bank accounts, life insurance, investment accounts, retirement accounts, you can just designate a beneficiary. That avoids probate court. You don't even need a trust.
So
You can just designate, I want my husband to get my bank account. I want my husband to get the death benefit on the life insurance. You designate a beneficiary when you open that account.
So the trust is for like a couple. They open this trust
Together, they
together.
can both express in the same document. Upon my death, I want everything to go to my spouse. Upon the death of my spouse, we want it to go to A, B, C, and D. And we're going to appoint somebody in our family after the death of both of us to distribute it according to the trust document. In Kobe Bryant's case, it was his wife with the co-trustee, and they petitioned the court to modify the trust. In your case, with you and your husband, you two will be the trustees, but upon the death of both of you, somebody's got to transfer the assets in the trust name to who you designate. Whether it's your children or your nieces and nephews or your parents, somebody's got to do it. Because we're not in probate court. We don't want the court interfering in our business.
Right.
We're going to name somebody and a backup to distribute the assets at our death privately without probate court. So it's really just another legal document like a will to transfer title to your assets privately.
It's kind of like creating some kind of bucket, where you put everything that you own in there. That needs title.
Yeah.
Right? And so and you're saying, okay, in order for this asset, whatever is in there, to transfer its ownership, now that I'm no longer here, it goes,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I wonder how long it takes somebody to like get this put together? Like, it seems very laborsome. I mean, like trying to get inventory of all your things.
No, not necessarily, right? Like, I think we kind of talked about it. You may be thinking about all your belongings, even personal belongings, right? But those are going to be just lumped up together, right? As far as your personal belongings are concerned. It's not like you have to list every single item on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can just say, I want all my tangible, which is your clothes, furniture, appliances, jewelry. I want that to go to my spouse. Just lump it all together. But, I want my wedding ring to go to my niece. Right? You can do that.
Or Joyce, something like that.
Okay.
No, you want the property.
I want the property. Yeah, there you go. I want the property.
I want
not
the property after death of my spouse to go to Joyce. But that's how you do it.
Yeah.
You do the same thing as to your wishes in either a will or a trust. But one avoids probate, the trust. The other does not. You got to go through probate.
Yeah.
And funding means putting the assets in the name of the trust.
Okay.
And you want to find an attorney that will do that for you instead of them watching you walk out the door without it finished.
Right.
And telling you to go do it.
Yeah.
But it's actually not overwhelming. Basic revocable trust that most people do, it can take a week, it can take 30 days. But when you do it with somebody like an expert attorney, you verified it's done right. If you try to do it yourself, when do you find out it doesn't go right?
And another thing
It's
is
too late. You're dead.
Yeah.
Right.
And another thing is like it happens to us too. If I were to give your tax return to you and I tell you to file it, you say, okay, I will. Sometimes that never happens.
Yeah.
You
It's
see?
true.
So,
It's true.
you think that, I'll do it tomorrow, and sometimes you forget about it.
Right.
Yeah, so that kind of thing. But it has, filing taxes, I mean, like, you can do it later, per se, but, like, if you pass, then not having a trust in place is going to have a really significant impact on those who are left.
So your company, y'all do maintenance. That means like you kind of
Help them out.
help them to make sure that they're keeping everything up to date.
Yes, we
That's good.
stay in contact regularly, especially with our business clients.
Yeah.
And
because there's always some changes there.
yeah, and we keep them abreast on the law, any interesting changes in the law that they may be interested in or may affect them. They contact us whenever their assets change and family changes, or if they have more children or somebody dies. So it's just an ongoing relationship. We treat them like family.
That's good.
Yeah, we
That's
love it.
good. Because sometimes, with this situation with Kobe Bryant, I'm sure they just were not thinking about it.
Yeah, Presley case. Let's get into hers. Yeah.
Lisa Presley.
Yes.
So Lisa Presley, as everybody knows, passed away.
Right.
And she had a trust. Her father did not. But everything she received from Elvis Presley, she was the sole beneficiary.
Okay.
So she took what she received from her father and her personal assets and created a trust.
Okay.
And when she died, of course, it went to her children. Priscilla Presley, her mother, who was married to Elvis Presley, was a trustee upon Lisa's death. So Lisa, the daughter of Elvis Presley, created a trust during her lifetime. She was the sole beneficiary of her father's estate, and she put it in the trust. Her trust. She, upon her death, designated her mother as a trustee. And I think during her lifetime, I'm not for sure, but her mother, Priscilla, was the trustee. With another co-trustee, which was, I think, a business manager. I don't know what the relationship was. And when Lisa died, Priscilla discovered she wasn't the trustee.
Huh?
Yes.
So it was changed.
It was changed by Priscilla, presumably. And when, first of all, Priscilla was not notified she was not the trustee. During her lifetime, which she was the trustee during Lisa's lifetime. And the amendment to take her and remove her from being trustee and replacing her with the two children of Lisa, that's what the amendment was. Lisa Presley allegedly in this amendment had removed Lisa and the other Priscilla
Another co-trustee.
and the co-trustee and replaced it with her adult children, 2 adult children.
Because now they're adults.
Yeah, they were adults.
Mm-hmm.
The problem Priscilla presented to the court when she filed said that this wasn't witnessed, this amendment. This wasn't notarized. They misspelled her name. So obviously Lisa would not misspell her mother's name.
Right.
The signature looked wonky and wanky.
Yeah.
There were a lot of suspicious things about this that didn't look right.
Okay.
Who would do that? I don't know.
Okay.
Right?
Uh-huh.
It made
Seems
no
like
sense.
things get crazy whenever people die.
Well, I mean, this presumably happened when Lisa was alive. Whether she knew about it or whether this was fraudulent.
Okay.
But Priscilla had filed a petition saying this was legally invalid and or by fraud. Somebody fraudulently did this amendment. And so that was what was litigated. It wasn't really pitting Priscilla against Lisa Presley's children.
Okay.
Right? Because they're the 2 beneficiaries. They were going to be the 2 co-trustees.
Yeah.
I think one child had died. Remember the son?
So
it was only the daughter.
So beneficiaries are still the children. Right, okay.
Yeah, that wasn't the issue. It was who was going to be the trustee.
Trustee.
Managing properly the estate,
yeah.
essentially really of Elvis Presley.
Right.
And so Priscilla had been doing that for years and was presumably should continue to be the trustee.
Okay.
And she was never notified, which was legally required. If you're going to remove a trustee, you have to legally notify them. And that wasn't done either. So there were a lot of defects about this amendment and possible fraud issues.
I see.
That could have publicly been litigated, and they settled out of court before it got to that point. And, I don't know if the daughter was involved. Who was involved if this was by fraud? Who would have benefited by doing this? Because it was the children that was going to be the trustee.
Anyways.
Yeah. So it leaves a lot of suspicion. I mean, they claim that we all get along. We settled. I'm glad,
Worked
but, all of these things come up bizarre. It's like, who would do this? Why would they do that when the sole trustee and sole beneficiary was now remaining just to be the daughter? So in the background, what's going on between Priscilla and the granddaughter? That's what people were thinking, like, whoa, something's going on here. Just suspicious. Nothing true. We don't know what the truth is. But they ended up settling, and I think they settled privately and gave probably Priscilla big money.
To be out of it.
To not litigate this issue. And
That's bizarre.
Yeah, and they put Priscilla back as trustee. I don't know the settlement, because whenever you settle, that remains confidential. It's not publicized in the court. So what they agreed upon regarding who was going to be the trustee and all that, I don't know. But the main issue was this amendment of the trust that allegedly Lisa did, Presley, the daughter of Elvis Presley, removing her mother and the co-trustee during her lifetime as the trustee of her daughter's trust. Managing the estate of Elvis Presley. Does that make sense? And it was pitting the grandmother against the granddaughter. Essentially, if they had litigated. If the granddaughter would have kept wanting to litigate that issue.
Granddaughter is too young to do that, I would think.
No, I mean, she's old enough. She's a full adult. Yeah, I don't know her. But she's well above 18.
Okay.
Yeah. Even then, though, like when you're in 20s, even some 30s.
And I think that's, Priscilla's main point, managing the estate of Elvis Presley.
Was huge.
She felt like she had the responsibility to do that. And obviously, for most of Lisa Presley's life, even though it was her asset that she received from Elvis, she made her mother the trustee of her trust. And I think for Priscilla, she felt like there was some fraud issues here of removing her.
Yeah, because she's the one who's been taking care of it even when Lisa was there. So
Lisa consented to that.
I hear this sometimes. It's like, okay, you create a trust and you say that you put, let's say, she creates a trust, and she puts somebody else to be trustee, a third party. Let's say her daughters, for example. Then when she makes the trust, would the trustee be notified?
If she creates the trust?
If she creates the trust?
Well, of course she would have to notify, because
The
don't you want
trustee.
to ask the trustee if she... You have to get consent.
Okay.
Because it's like I was talking with a few of my friends and for different programs, and there were people who said, I've never been notified.
Wow.
As trustee, and so you must have, and so no, I've never received anything.
Wow.
So you're supposed to get the notification.
You have to.
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. Like, if you're going to be a trustee of a trust,
you have to consent.
Right? Don't you want to know
how to work?
Huh?
To be a trustee? Is it?
It just depends. No, it's a lot easier than going to probate court and having legal affairs.
If you have to compare it to that, yes.
But it just depends on the complexity and if the trust is well written and very clear. Because a trust can be very ambiguous, and ambiguity leads to legal problems.
Yeah.
And some trusts are contradictory. So again, this is why you have to have an expert draft the trust, so that there is no room for litigation, for ambiguity, confusion, contradiction.
Contradiction happens a lot.
Yeah, things you should have anticipated. But if it's well written, it's pretty simple. It's pretty much on cruise control. But again, you can get the wrong lawyer. You may try to do it yourself. The lawyer may have made a mistake. Who knows?
So, like, even among for the business owners too, when you actually look at or read their agreements, I mean, some contracts are written in different things. Like, first page, this is what it says. Last page, this is what it says. You know what I mean? It's contradicting, right? So, I think that's where the expertise and experience comes pretty handy.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Because you can kind of anticipate what to look for.
Yeah.
Because they're like, we need to make sure these are all in line with what the grantor is trying to do. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's interesting.
Yeah. Well, what was the third person? Who was the third person?
Aretha Franklin. Is that who we were thinking about?
Do we have time to talk about that one?
Do we have time? 3
more
minutes.
minutes?
3 minutes.
No, I can't do a recap in 3 minutes.
We'll do it next time.
Yeah,
next
time.
Yeah. We're gonna have to wrap up here. It's kind of I guess celebrities are celebrities. Even after they're gone, we're interested to know more about them. So thanks for joining us today, and I'm sure we're going to talk more about trust and estate planning, because I know it's a lot of information. It's hard to understand, especially when you hear it for the first time. Like, it's almost like a foreign language to you, So we'll try to talk more about it, and I'm sure Holly's going to kind of enlighten us with all this.
Yeah, Aretha is the will instead of a trust. She didn't even have a will, but we'll talk about
that would be
holographic
interesting
will. So
to see that difference.
That's a whole topic.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's do it. All right. Thanks for joining us today. Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this week's video. If you have questions on anything we covered, or you'd like to ask us, just leave it in the comments below. We love to hear what you have to say about what we talked about and what you want us to talk about. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our channel. See you next time.